Hello, all my beautiful power sisters. Welcome once again to Redefining Her Success Virtual Summit. I'm so excited because we are on a roll today. We just recently heard from Bonnie Ortman Fox, and she just broke down some realities for us on how to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. I mean, she just broke it down for us to where she showed us how to grow and how others that or in our story has been a part of our family in our office and how to deal with those type of situations to where we continue to grow. And so as I promised you, this summit is on fire with all types of powerhouse sisters, and we're going to address everything that concerns women all across the planet. So here we go, because our next powerhouse speaker, whew, I'm so excited to bring to you. But first, let me remind you who I am. I am your co-host. I am Pamela Garrison. And again, you can feel my excitement. You know that I'm excited. I can't hide it. I don't want to hide it. And I hope it's contagious. So with that being said, we are just some real women having some real conversations about real life things that we women go through. And right now, as we continue in this summit, I have before me another one of my powerhouse sisters, Miss Amy Cheryl, and she is the CEO and founder of, and I don't want to mess it up because, you know, that's why we keep notes in front of us. She is CEO and founder of Women's Worth Academy. See that name alone, Women's Worth Academy, where she has helped thousands of women live their best lives. She's passionate about empowering women, who's not, to break free from exhausting pressures and judgment of today's cultural norms, to be their own authority. Don't you want to be your own authority? To be your own authority. Realize your innate power shamelessly. Let me say that again. Celebrate your success and confidently create the life that you always wanted. Don't we all want that? And so without further ado, I'm going to have Amy let you know how else she served the world. Go ahead, Amy, and finish introducing yourself.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me, Pamela. It's like so fantastic just to be in space with you and to be with all of you power sisters. I know that if you're here, there's something here for you. So I'm just so excited to be here. And yes, so just like you said, Pamela, it is so important for us as women to break the shackles that have held us back, whether it's societal conditioning, ancestral lineage, past traumas. There's so many things that consciously or unconsciously wind up crushing us and holding us down as women and disconnect us from where our true power is. And you know, what I have come to realize is that we have been raised in a society that really doesn't honor the woman's way. And so I have found that majority of women, whether they're aware of it or not, have some sort of disconnect and perhaps some discomfort until they reconnect and get comfortable again with their power.
Because you said so many women have some type of disconnect. And I think that's just a perfect leeway into redefining her truth. So what advice would you give to a woman who is disconnected? What steps could she take to redefine her truth as a woman in business, or just, like I said, as a woman in general, because we handle everything. So how would you advise a woman who's feeling disconnected right now in her truth?
Yeah, when I hear you ask that inquiry, the first thing that comes to me is, woman, I invite you to take a beat, take a breath, take a pause. It can wait. We as women can feel as if we're being pulled at the beck and call of everything around us, right? Whether it's our roles, our relationships, our job, if we have children, if we don't have children, like whatever it is, there is always this being pulled, and we can lose our way, and we can lose our sense of self. And just that. What's the guidance that you can do at any given time is take a breath, take a pause, and learn how to reconnect with what feels right inside you, not what you think you're supposed to do, not what you should do, not what other people expect from you, not this strategizing that I need to do this to get that, or I need to go here to be there. What would it be like if you just let all that go for 5 minutes and just sat and you breathed and you inquired within yourself, what is my truth? What is it that really, that I feel inside me that gives me the chills? That's right for me.
Right. And that's very profound, because often women in business, corporate environment, entrepreneurship, we're always so busy. It's busy work, busy work, busy work. When you said, just take a breath, just pause. And I can imagine right now that your entrepreneur mind, even if you're home with the children or whatever, because we have task after task after task. And to hear someone say, just breathe, just take a breath, just pause a moment and connect to the woman within. Connect to the woman within, right? Because on our inner being, we know our truth. And so in that moment of truth, as things come up, what other advice can you give to move forward beyond, the connection? So now, you're taking this breath, sitting still. Now what? Because I know that as we're doing that, so many women are gonna feel uncomfortable. In the stillness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So can you speak to that piece?
Yes, I can. Big time. And I relate. There was a time when I couldn't sit still at all. It was, I look back at who I used to be and who I am now. And I look at my sisters who are in corporate and their transformation. And what I can say about that is oftentimes we're running to distract. Because what can happen sometimes is that when we sit still, before the clarity comes through, the confusion can come up. The fear can come up. Because what can happen is when we get to our truth, what I'll say, the egoic part of ourselves, or the part of ourselves that created a life for ourselves, makes stories, like makes something bigger than it really is. Just because when we sit with ourselves, even for 5 minutes, and just get some clarity for ourselves and allow ourselves, give ourselves permission to ask those important questions. What is it that's important to me? It doesn't mean that when your clarity comes through of what the next step is, it doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. And that can change.
That's a key point.
Yes.
Because again, when you're a busy woman, you always feel like you have to do something, that you have to be doing all the time. So that's a powerful statement, that when the clarity comes, you don't have to do anything.
You don't. You don't have to take action right away. You don't. You can if you want, yet I find that sometimes it's the fear of, well, if I really get to redefining my truth, what is true for me, then everything in my life is going to change, or I'll have to leave my husband or leave my job, or like, can you hear it? Like all these stories and fears, it doesn't mean anything. It may just mean that you need a massage. You know what I mean? Like,
just relax and tone it down. You said something powerful in one of our personal conversations before we came on that I thought was very powerful. And I want to bring that up now, because you said, as women, wherever we are. We're always there. We're there. And so I really want you to elaborate on that, because again, you have said such powerful things that kind of just, it touched my very insides, because it makes you think a little deeper, because we're so often thinking about everybody around us to where we forget about the woman that is us, that's always with us. So if you can elaborate on that as well and share a little bit about that as you did with me earlier.
I would love to. And thank you for asking about that. And, I want to piggyback a little bit on when you said the woman within, because I have a term in my company of reconnecting to the wise woman within.
I like that.
And we as women can sometimes get so caught up in our personas of what our job is or our roles, wearing all these different hats. And that can create disconnect within ourselves and with each other. Because at the end of the day, we have all come into this earth as a woman in this woman's body. We have a particular lineage that we're breaking free, because we were not always free, and we are still not free as women. We're not. We need to, call the pink elephant out of the room. And so in answering your question, it's about inquiring within ourselves, who do I want to be? Like, what kind of woman do I want to be? Not what kind of woman is expected of me, but what kind of woman, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? So, for example, for me, and it always helps me every time, especially when I have what I call a sticky, like maybe there's somebody in my life that did something that wasn't so nice, and it's pissing parts of me off, or you know what I mean? Or I'm just like, why can't they be like this? Or, whatever it may be, or just things that could just get parts of me irritated. That doesn't feel good to me. That's not who I want to be. For me, who I love being, and I'm not saying it's an easy task, yet it is possible and it feels so good, is I am clear that the woman that I love being is a woman who's compassionate, a woman who's courageous, a woman who's clear and grounded and centered, and most importantly, calm. Like, that is everything. And loving and caring. And oh my God, like even as I say these words, I could feel them in my being. It makes me feel better, because when we remember that who we are truly being, not what our job is, not what our role is, not how we show up with this persona or how people perceive us to be. We can't control how people are going to perceive us. I had to work with that. I had to work through that for years. I mean, there was years of me being so afraid to be out in the world and just hiding, because there was so much fear that women would attack me or have gossip about me. Or, I mean, at the end of the day, nobody knows our backstory. I was once over 200 pounds, I mean, and then people look at me today and they could have stories and, just like, and that creates these disconnects. So at the end of the day, it's about connecting to who you know yourself to be and who you know you can be. And it doesn't mean you're like,
I do. I like that. So connecting, because you said, decide. When you make that decision of
yes,
who you desire to be, not who everyone wants you to show up as, but who do you desire to be, and having that resolution and just making that decision alone, and then showing up as your true self in everything will simply, what's the best way to put it? It's definitely, well, that's walking in your truth.
yes, it is. It
I mean,
changes everything. Like, it
walking in
changes
your truth.
It's walking in your truth. And then those things that perhaps parts of you want it, like, let's say that you're upset, somebody upsets you, and like there are these parts of you that want to give it to that person, or have your say in it, or, say I'm right. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
when you're walking your truth, there's no need for that. You can just, there's some times when it's important to speak up, but there's so many times when it's really not necessary. It's like, you know what? That's the ego talking. I don't need to do that. And that actually can create more problems in a relationship. And then we're creating these problems in a relationship when we really don't need to do it.
Right. Because
So
you talked about, being calm, and this is how you maintain your peace. This is how you maintain, your environment, your calmness of making that decision. And how freeing is it to know that I don't have to go and defend myself on what someone else has thought about me if they're ruffling my feathers, so to speak. Because again, I love that, because we know as women, we can't change people. We can only work on ourselves. And so I love this conversation when it comes to redefining your truth, because it's really a serene place to be. It just, I can feel the peace in this conversation. I can feel the calmness. I can feel the resolve. I can feel that in this conversation. And even though it's not something that's always talked about, our feelings, but as women, we have feelings. And, so what advice would you give to a woman in the workplace on how to manage the feelings that go along with this? Because often in the workplace, we have some reputations with our feelings. So how would you speak to that?
Yes, I would say the first thing is our feelings are our messengers to help us get to our truth. Here we are in this conversation of redefining our truth.
Yes.
Our feelings, our emotions are the navigation system, the roadmap. So my guidance is when something comes up for you, and I get it, I do. Our society has made us wrong, or you shouldn't have feelings, or you're oversensitive, or you can't have that in the workplace. And it's all this dialogue that always shames a woman, always makes a woman wrong. It's always about the woman. I will say that wherever we are, especially the workplace, it's not about being stoic or guarded or acting like a man, because we're not men. We got to stop that. That's not going to help the problem. And at the same time, it's important that when we feel those feelings inside of ourselves, for us to breathe and sit with it. We talked about stillness earlier, right?
Yes.
This is the opportunity. You sit with that feeling, not react. Not react, because that feeling is for you to get to your truth. And if we react when we have an emotional charge, no good will ever come out of it, because we're actually not clear. That's something for us to sit with, not something for us to put out with somebody else. Then we're diluting our power, diluting our energy. We're giving a potent piece of great medicine, of great value, of great truth for ourselves. We're just like throwing it out and giving it away and think that that's being powerful, or that's having our say. It's not.
So
It actually
the true power is taking ownership.
Yes.
Right? The true power is taking ownership of our emotions, of our feelings, of ourself. And then with that ownership, we can then respond better in whatever environment we're in. Am I understanding correctly?
You are. And it's so interesting because, whenever I'm being interviewed, I always, for me, I connect with the wise one within. This is what I teach. I live it, of reconnecting to our intuitive self that has been discounted by society. Einstein has that famous quote that, oh gosh, what is that famous quote? Something to the effect, paraphrase, is the problem with society is it made the mental mind its master, and it has forgotten the gift. And the gift is the intuitive mind. And we've made the mental mind, the master, when it's meant to be the servant to the intuitive mind.
So I'm going to say that again. Say it again.
The
Make that
problem,
point one more time. Go ahead.
problem with society is it's made the servant the master. And the servant is the mental mind, the one that analyzes, rationalizes, sees things logically, figures things out, thinking mind.
Right.
And it's not the sacred gift, which is our intuition, our true knowing, which is where our truth is, our intuition, our gut feelings.
And that's exactly what I wanted you to do, to break it down. The difference between the mental mind and the intuitive mind. For those that don't know, maybe have never even heard those terms before, because especially in a workplace, it's always the mental mind, the strategies, and what we can come up with, and then trying to constantly work in that, and then disregarding intuition and different things that come up that can most likely yield you a better way of doing things and becoming more successful in whatever endeavor you're taking on. So I think that is very valuable observation. And then for the woman who may, struggle with, do I use my intuition? Or, things have to be done a certain way. And those are some of the barriers. I'm so happy that you brought that up, because I know that in just being in the workforce and even having a background, again, whether that's corporate America, entrepreneurship, even in your own daily life, we go through these struggles. We think about what's right and what's wrong. And really, listening to the way you have explained things is like really working on what's best for you. What's your truth? What is your truth? And in that truth, this is what we're talking about, redefining your truth. So if you've been doing something in one pattern, maybe you need to explore something differently that resonates with your truth, right?
And this is the thing. The thing is that when we're truly in our truth, it always yields better outcomes. I often explain it in this context. When a woman becomes pregnant, does she become pregnant inside her brain, in her mental mind? Does she birth the baby out of her brain? Does she grow the baby out of her brain? Did she need a manual of how do I grow a baby inside of me? How do I give birth? We know the answer. So the mental mind is a great tool, yet it's a very small part. And it's not meant to be the president of us. It's not meant to be the executive decider of our life. It's meant to serve our intuitive knowingness, that which does create life. And look at our body. It's so much bigger than the brain. I mean, so if we were to give the brain something that to make sense of what I'm talking about here, let's just look at that. We have this innate wisdom as women that creates life. We didn't get a manual, and we've been given that gift. And I'm not saying anything, this is not a man-woman thing. Right. What I am saying is men were not given that gift. So there's something to consider and to sit with here of how powerful we are, of how smart we are, of how intelligent our beingness is, and that when we don't connect to that, we're doing ourselves and the world such a disservice, because we're denying the world life. And we don't need to birth a child to offer life and to offer wisdom and to offer possibilities. Nothing in this world of a great invention was created through the mental mind. It was all intuition. Anything amazing, and any great inventor that speaks of things will not say, oh, I sat in front of my desk and I was trying to strategize, and that's how this great invention came to me. It was no. like Harry Potter, you know, the woman who wrote all these books, sitting on a train, destitute, and all of a sudden, because she's in this meditative state on the train, she was living off like food stamps, and she's on this meditative state, open to this intuitive connection. And all of a sudden, she starts writing the Harry Potter book, and she just stayed on the train. She followed through with her intuition. She didn't get off the train, and she wrote the book on that train. And look where she is now.
That's powerful. And, you know, and I love it because, again, as women, we're so powerful. I love the birthing process. It's something that I speak about often. So I definitely enjoyed that example. And we as women, we are creative. We are creative beings. And it's so much that we carry and so much that we impact the world with. It is very important that we show up as ourselves in our truth so that we can continue to impact and empower all the sisters all around us. We have to kind of wrap this up, our time. When you're having fun, oh my goodness.
I know, it felt like I'm really like, you can just keep going with this.
Start just like, really? So we kind of have to start wrapping it up. I'm so enjoying, but we do have to start wrapping it up. And it's just, it's so powerful, and there's so much more we can talk about, and so much more. But any last parting, anything else you want to add, you know, to a woman with redefining her truth? One more little golden nugget, or just a summary of what you just said. And so that we can, you know, kind of wrap it up, and we'll let them know, and then also let the women know how they can get in touch with you, what, you know, your website information, that type of thing. And, you know, go right ahead.
You know, I would say to not fear what you haven't experienced yet. It doesn't mean that your whole life is going to suddenly change. And I see this, you know, I see my, you know, I have women in my life, especially that are in the corporate or in the workplace, you know, and that doesn't define who you are. To create space and time in your life, even if you just start with 10 minutes a day, just for you, whether it's that yoga class, or like maybe you're not into yoga, you know, maybe it's just taking a brisk walk for 5 minutes, just something where you start reconnecting back to who you are as a woman, and getting yourself back into something that can give you some breathing room, where you're like, maybe just where you're out in nature.
That's beautiful.
Something where you have just something for you, where you can get out of this thinking mind, not fear what you don't know yet, and be okay with not knowing. Always remember, it's okay. And the last thing I'll say is, if ever you doubt yourself, or if ever you, as you're reconnecting with your wise woman within, and perhaps these things come to you, and then the commentary comes in that says, well, who do you think that? Or maybe that's not true. Or is that my imagination? That's what you want to say. Okay, this mental mind of mine, the servant, does not understand, because you don't need to understand. Yet my inner knowing knows.
And let them know how to get in, what's your website, how to reach you. Because we do have to wrap it up.
Oh, yes.
Yes. We do.
Yes, my website, you can just drop it right on womensworthacademy.com, and that's women's with a E, plural, womensworthacademy.com. And let's just follow that name, and it'll take you to all sorts of places and social media and everything.
Absolutely. And definitely it's going to be on the Redefining Her Success. We're going to give out all that information in addition as well. I told you, I got powerhouse women lined up for redefining her truth. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, because I enjoyed it. And like I said, I don't keep my enjoyment to myself. Go tell a friend, go tell somebody. So I'm so glad to be here. And what I want to do right now is invite you to join our VIP session of this summit. Because if you want to revisit these conversations, if you want to increase your library on just being successful as a woman, this is that chance. This is that opportunity. You can have each day of each one of these powerhouse women conversations that we're having right now, and it'll be right there at your fingertips. So I encourage you to do so. I want to thank you again for tuning in, for joining us. If you want to upgrade to VIP, there's going to be a link below. I just need you to click on that link, and then you can definitely upgrade your experience. I want to thank Miss Amy Cheryl once again for being here and enlightening us, to just pause, breathe a minute. We got this, and so we can take that with us right now. So we're going to pause for the calls right now. This is Pamela R. Garrison. We're signing out on this one, but I'll be back with another powerhouse sister to increase your success and help redefine your truth. That's it for now.